Hello, and welcome to One Bad Veggies Root Beer Review, where in this review you can decide whether or not it's pronounced root or route. So yeah, in this review we're doing Mother Road Route 66 Root Beer, which, it's not the first Route 66 Root Beer that I've ever reviewed. In fact, I think I had one that was just literally called Route 66 Root Beer or Root 66 Root Beer, because I think they spelled it root, like as in, or was it route? Maybe it was, I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Either way, Route 66 seems to be a very popular name designation for root beers, which is weird because they're also usually like Chicago-based companies, which is weird anyway, because then we get into the whole like weird fact that root beer seems to have a lot of companies based out of Chicago and Texas and Chicago. I mean, Texas is a big place, but it's still weird to me that there's so many in Texas and then just so many in Chicago. Anyway, so I try to look up a little bit of history on this root beer. The first thing I noticed on the bottle actually is that it says it's bottled by Filbert. So I'm not sure if it's actually made by Filberts or if it's its own company that's simply bottled by Filberts. I did read someplace that some people have claimed that it is a cane sugar version of Filberts. So it would be the same root beer, just made with cane sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup. But my argument for that would be that in my previous review for Filberts, they have two versions of Filberts. I don't know if it's still this way, but they used to at least have two versions of Filberts. They were named differently. I think one was draft, and maybe one was called like natural draft, where one did have cane sugar in it and the other one did have high fructose corn syrup in it. So I don't know if that's true about Mother Road, or if Mother Road is just its own brand that's just bottled by Filbert. But not a whole lot of history, not a whole lot of anything. I think it's just someone decided to make a root beer and it's bottled by Filbert. So other than that, I guess we can go ahead and just get into the ingredients. All right, let's take a look at the ingredients, which should be appearing right here. And as you can see, I always make the joke about standard root beer ingredients. I mean, you don't get more standard than that. Like, there's literally nothing that stands out as far as the ingredients go. Of course, as I say almost every single time, natural and artificial flavors. Who knows what that means? I wish that we had the ability to know, because they'll say it like, oh, fresh hints of wintergreen and vanilla with a slight taste of caramel or something like that. Well, it doesn't say so in the ingredients. Anyway, before I start getting in my whole soapbox about that, let's go ahead and take a look at the bottle. And as you see at the bottle here, it's with the same people who believe that it's just a cane sugar version of Filberts, they think that maybe this is just a fancy cover just made for that version or whatever. Although I swear I've seen another version of Mother Road that had a different label than this. But yeah, let's just a little look at the label. Nothing. I mean, it is what it is. And then you got all the ingredients and all that stuff here. It's kind of a nice label. You can't tell, but it's it feels a little bit nicer than like a paper label or something like that. But otherwise, gets the point across. Greetings from Mother Road, Route 66 root beer. So, not a whole lot to say about the ingredients or the label or anything like that. So, I guess we can just go ahead and get into opening up and take a little sniff. All right, let's go ahead and crack it open. Definitely on the sweeter side, for sure. Yeah, it's not a lot to say about the scent. Ooh, I dropped the cap. Not a lot to say about the scent. It's definitely hits you on the sweeter side, for sure. I don't dislike it. It doesn't. It, I do smell some anise in it, but it's on the back end of the scent instead of like the forward scent. The forward scent is very, I don't know. I guess it's just sugary. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm not gonna say it's got like vanilla or anything like in it. Maybe if there is, it's like just a hint of it, like the same with the anise, but it's mostly just kind of like a sugary, sweet root beer, normal root beer kind of scent, like what you would expect out of what a root beer smells like. So, let's go ahead and let's just go ahead and get into the pour in the foam then. All right, here we are with the old trusty mug. Let's go ahead and see how this Mother Road root beer looks. Ooh, that's pretty good. I would call that picturesque myself. Let's go ahead and try to get a sip of that foam before it goes away. But look at that. It's not going away. It's staying right there. That's good looking. That's a good looking root beer. Anyway, let's go ahead and get ourselves a little sip of that. All right, let's go ahead and so I will say, as far as the foam goes, at first I thought it's kind of giving me that chemical flavor of something that's maybe got too many preservatives or something in it. First off, still lots of foam left. But it actually is, what I'm tasting is the anise. Tasting that licorice flavor. Which again, like I said before, it's not strong in the scent, but it is strong. It is something that you can taste or smell in the background. Which I think that's kind of interesting. I find it interesting too that it's the prevalent flavor in the foam, which in a way kind of makes sense. If it's on the back end of smelling it and it's on the forefront of the foam, and I usually say that foam kind of hides the more background flavors of one of the root beers, that would make a lot of sense. So I feel like this is going to be a very sweet forward root beer, and then it'll have like an anise aftertaste, which we'll see how that goes. That can be either fine or terrible in my case. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get into the taste test. Thumbs up. So this one's kind of crazy. So I'm starting to think, and it still could have been what I thought it was, but I'm almost starting to think that flavor, that anise flavor wasn't actually anise at all this time. Because I did think it was kind of strange. Like, not strange, but something was different about it. And I think what it actually is. So let me kind of go over kind of like what happened when I took my first drink of this one. At first, I'm like, that's caramel. I'm tasting caramel, and maybe there is definitely some caramel flavor in there. But then after it kind of washed over me, I noticed that the flavor kind of morphed into something else, and it almost kind of reminded me at first of some of the salted caramel root beers I've had, which classically I've never enjoyed those. I've had some decent ones, but I've never had like a good one. And then I realized, no, that's not what that is. That's not the salted caramel flavor. And then all of a sudden it hits me, that's molasses. I am tasting molasses. And historically speaking, because I've only ever reviewed like one other root beer that kind of used molasses so heavily in their root beer, I love that. I love the taste of molasses as in root beer, and I believe that's what I'm tasting is molasses again. But like I said, I think this one is a little bit sweeter than the other root beer that I had that was from the brewery. um, which I also think it was the Route 66 brewer or something like that. But anyway, um, no, it's super interesting because it's definitely different than the other one I had. Like I said, this one's definitely sweeter. There's definitely other flavors that stand out too. The molasses is probably the strongest flavor in it, other than, just your average root beer sweetness and stuff like that kind of flavors. But yeah, I was really kind of like, whoa, how do I feel about this after drinking it? Because like I said, I really do like molasses as a flavor in root beer. Again, I've only had it twice now. Or at least strong enough to taste it like that. It's two root beers. Whoever said that this is the cane sugar version of Filberts is crazy, because it does not taste like Filberts at all. It definitely has its own unique flavor. But goodness, I don't know how I feel about it. Like, I know how I feel about it. I think it's good. I'm gonna go ahead and just lay that out there. I think it's a good root beer. I think the hardest part for me right now is deciding what kind of a letter grade to give it, because I believe the last molasses root beer, molasses flavored, whatever, the one that tasted very molassesy, I don't know. I gave it an A. I gave it an A. So I guess I'm just trying to decide what letter grade to give this one, because it does taste different enough that I just can't be like, well, it's got molasses in it, I'm gonna give it an A. But I mean, it's gonna score high. I don't know how else to put it. Like, I really like this one, I'll put it that way. I mean, like, I'm sitting here and I'm having transgressions about how do I feel about this root beer and stuff. Well, the truth is that I really like it, and the struggle that I'm having is, how high of a score am I going to give it? So I'm gonna go ahead and think on that, and then we'll discuss it. All right, let's talk about this. So I gave the Route 66 Brewery an A. I thought it was one of the most unique and delicious root beers that I've ever had. And this one is different enough that I don't think that I want to give it an A, because the thing about the and let me get the name right here. The thing about it was Route 66 Old School Brewing. The thing about the Old School Brewing, also Route 66, that's so funny, is that the flavor of the molasses was kind of the outstanding thing about it, right? That is what made it taste so good to me. I know it's kind of a regional thing. If anyone's ever had like G-Shaft candy or something like that, or any candy that's based around molasses, that's kind of what it reminds me of. Is it's got almost a pepperminty, not peppermint, because peppermint's too strong of a word, but there is like a mintiness to it. It's a very unique, almost a caramely kind of flavor and everything like that. I mean, it's molasses. If you've ever had molasses in your entire life, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And molasses on its own is kind of a funky flavor, but once you start adding sugar and stuff to it, it's good. It's good. There's lots of desserts that have molasses in it. Like, I feel like everyone knows this. This is not new. This is not news. But with the thing is the thing that I'm struggling with is, like, do I rate this on its own merits, or do I have to rate it compared to the other one that I had? Because, it does make a big difference if I'm sitting there and I give both of these root beers an A, let's say, right? But I do definitely prefer one over the other. Definitely prefer one over the other. So I think that's why I'm going to go ahead and give this one a B, which is still an incredibly high score. You know what I'm going to say? You know what I mean? But like if you're going to narrow it down to the small genre of root beers that have molasses heavy flavors in them, I mean, then you're comparing the two, which one of them is readily available all over the country, the other one is literally at one brewery. And so it's not very fair to compare as far as that goes. But no, I'm giving this one a B just because, like, it's not better than the other one. It's still very, very good, but in comparison to other root beer that I've had that was very molasses heavy is flavored, I think this one is just a little bit worse than that one. Um, but if it wasn't for the fact that I had had that other one, I may have rated this an A. You know what I mean? So I'm giving it a B only because you know it is not quite as good as the other one I've had. However, that doesn't mean it's bad in any way, shape, or form. It got a B. Like I said, a B is high for me. Um yeah, I guess that's it. So yeah, B. And that's it for this one. I can't believe we are 5 weeks away from review number 100. That seems crazy to me. I literally thought I would never get that far. Um, I never thought I would be able to find 100 root beers, but luckily the internet exists and that helps a lot. Um, and to be fair, I will say that number 100 when it comes will be different. Not that it won't be a root beer, it'll definitely be a root beer, but I'll be breaking some of my rules to review this one because I think it's worth reviewing, even despite the fact that it is different from other root beers that I've had. And when we get there, you'll definitely understand what I mean by that. But for now, that's really it. So yeah, I hope you had a good time.